Ugh, another pointless video call where nothing gets done. I think you're on mute, David.
Sorry. What did I miss?
IT just approved Miro for the whole company.
Miro. That's the...
Online whiteboard. For team collaboration. We can make these long video meetings so much shorter with Miro boards. We can share ideas, feedback, and updates on them whenever. Actually see what we're talking about.
It's all online.
Miro will make our flexible work setup so much easier. With one virtual space for our brainstorms, projects, presentations.
Oh, that sounds kind of amazing. So I don't need to wake up for 6 a.m. calls with the London office anymore.
Now you're getting it.
Don't let time zones get in the way of your team working well together. See why 99% of the Fortune 100 trust Miro to get good work done from anywhere. Get your first 3 boards free at Miro.com. That's Miro.com.
This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love. Do you ever suffer from depression or dark thoughts that seem to come on for no reason? Do you ever find yourself feeling a wave of anxiety rushing over you without warning? It just may be that the reason lies not within you, but from one of your past lives. Does this sound hard to believe? Well, after listening to my guest today, Wendy Rose Williams, you might change your mind. Wendy is a past life adventure guide who helps people release energy that no longer serves them so that they can lead happier, healthier lives. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Wendy.
Well, thank you, Debbie. I'm so happy to be here today.
Oh, well, thank you. Wendy, how do we know if we're affected by our past lives?
I believe almost everyone is. I mean, if we've got fears or phobias that just don't make sense, or if we've got really neat abilities and just take to something like a duck to water, that can be because of a past life too. So it's not just that energy that we need to release, it's that energy that we want to embrace.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a show about dreams, and I'm wondering, do we access our past lives through our dreams?
Absolutely. That's such a common denominator between what we do, Debbie, and it's just people accessing their subconscious, that wisdom of their soul, without necessarily realizing what's going on. So if you have a dream that's just got like a different quality to it, it feels so memorable and intriguing, and you might notice things are not current day. You might notice old-fashioned clothing or music or cars or just scenes or lamp lights on the street, those sorts of things. That can be a past life coming and just kind of bubbling to the surface through your dream so that you can work with that energy.
So when you do have a dream like that and it's calling a past life, is there usually a reason why that past life will come back?
Yes, great question. Usually, and this is why it's so helpful to get good at recalling your dreams and just to write a few notes about them so that you've just got that on an ongoing basis. And then you start to learn how to work with the symbols or work with someone like you that can really help someone interpret them, because there's just such magic in that of understanding yourself. Just being able to tune into that. I'm sorry, did I answer your question? I may have gone on a tangent there.
No, I think you did.
Okay.
You did. That's fine. Well, Wendy, when I think about past lives, or sometimes when I hear people talking about past lives, it often seems to me you hear things like, oh yeah, my past life, I was Henry VIII, or I was Cleopatra, or I was Marilyn Monroe, or some famous person. But that's not really the reality, is it?
That's one of the objections that comes up. It's one of the things that naysayers use to just kind of debunk the entire field of study. And we can have had hundreds, if not thousands, of lives. And certainly many of them are not going to have been recorded in history in any way. And the reason that those famous ones keep coming up is just simply because they've got a really strong energy to them. And it may be kind of like a time date stamp to help the person release similar energy. So it doesn't have to be literal. So you just have to get a bit more nuanced with it. And perhaps you had a lifetime like that, not as Henry VIII, but as a ruler, because ruler is a common archetype. And my belief is that we do all have various types of lives, servants and rulers and merchants and warriors and just those various types of archetypes.
And after all, we can't all be Cleopatra.
Correct. Nor would we want to be.
That's true. That could be true. But if we were, let's say, a servant in a past life, does that mean that in all our past lives we were servants or that kind of person?
Oh, certainly not. I believe that the soul craves experiences in order to progress, and that we look for a variety of lives. So you'll see a lot of contrast, a lot of opposites, that ruler versus servant, that warrior versus that very peaceful monk. So there's just that wide variety. So we certainly are not typecast. You're not forced in any way to play that one role and get stuck in that one type of role, because it'd be very limiting. We've got free will and we choose.
But do women always come back as women and men, or does it switch around?
It switches around because we've all got, in every lifetime, we've got aspects of the divine masculine within us and the divine feminine within us. And we do choose different genders, or we may be asexual in a life, we may be gay in a life, we may be, just very well balanced. So anything is possible.
And what about animals? Are humans ever animals?
That's such an intriguing question. And that's one of those places where the field of past life regression studies really splits. And some people will say, absolutely not, doesn't happen. Others will get into like a lot of religious programming around that, as an example of what the Hindus or Buddhists might believe. And others are just simply more open-minded. I just try and be open-minded. And the suggestion that I give to people during their session is to go to the time and place with the most healing and information for their life today. So their past life that they're exploring might be lives seen earlier in this lifetime. It might be something on planet, off planet. It might be in another dimension, like a fairy realm, a dragon realm, whatever it might be. Or it might be something in the animal kingdom, and they may find themselves in the body of an animal. It doesn't happen that often, but I absolutely see it, particularly with shaman and animal communicators.
And I guess that leads also to my next question is, how far back can you go? I mean, you go back to, caveman era?
Oh, absolutely. It's limitless. I found one of those lifetimes myself, and I was just so surprised. I was trying to specifically heal problems with my right foot. I'd had 2 surgeries on it, was having difficulties, and I asked to see all lifetimes that would help me heal my right foot. And one of them was as a caveman, where I was climbing up some rocks. I didn't realize that it just was not steady, and they all shifted and crushed my foot, and I did die from the injuries. So people can go to any time period. It's wherever the energy, because I see past life regression sessions as being architected by that individual having the session by their higher self, their soul, and by their guides, because it's going to benefit them. So they can go anywhere.
Do families reincarnate with us?
Yes, there is a lot of Journey of Souls. Michael Newton's bestseller talked about that a lot. Dr. Brian Weiss talks about that a fair bit, as does Dolores Cannon, who are the three biggest past life regressionists in the US. Others certainly write about it too. But it does make some sense to me that we have both, call it a primary soul group of individuals that we reincarnate with many times, because we're traveling through life together. We're having these experiences and we learn together well, and we choose different roles. So your mother's not always your mother. You might switch roles and now you're the daughter, or vice versa. Or your child might be a best friend in another life. They might be a teacher. They might be your lover. It can just be different roles. And we also have adjacent soul groups that we can reincarnate with many times and in powerful roles together, simply to learn, just mastering those experiences, mastering those human emotions, because that's what so much of it's about.
Yeah. So what do you mean by adjacent soul group?
An adjacent soul group, if we think of just picture like a circle, and that you're there with your primary soul group. Let's say, just for simple numbers, Dr. Newton did a lot of studies on this, 7,000 patients, and it looks like soul groups, if you like that concept, are around 5 to 20 people, souls. And then adjacent soul groups are those other groups that we interact with that are kind of the closest to us. And that total number may end up being around perhaps 1,000 souls when you count in all those adjacent soul groups.
So what kind of energy do we get from accessing our past lives?
The energy that tends to bubble up, unless you're being very specific and very directed of what you're looking for, it tends to be the energy that we most need to release. So it can be things that are causing us pain, and we just can't figure out why we've got physical pain or emotional pain, just something that is very raw for us in a way, and it's hard to let go of it. It's hard to heal it. It's hard to figure it out and understand it. And we may have had it for years or decades. So those sorts of things definitely come up, as well as inexplicable anxiety, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, or depression, feelings of sadness. There also can be anger or even rage that's just triggered. And again, we're like, oh my goodness, where is that coming from? And often it's coming from a feeling being triggered, for instance, of feeling powerless and feeling that powerlessness, or being triggered by authority, as an example, because a lot of people do have issues with authority that they may not, realize that that's coming from a past life, or they were treated very unfairly, or perhaps they were the person on the other side of it and just didn't know what to do to be an effective or fair or good ruler.
And so we relive that, and relive the experience and the energy from that.
Right.
Yeah. So how do we access our past lives?
Well, certainly through dreams. Paying attention to your dreams and keeping just a real simple dream diary is one way. Meditation is another fantastic way. Just being able to calm down that monkey mind, that left brain, that do type energy. And doing a past life regression. Those are some of the top ways to be able to access that information. And the whole purpose is to create a happier life now, just like with your dream work, Debbie. That's why I so related to what you said at the beginning and the work that you do.
Well, it is. It's all about finding ways to live that happy life, or as I like to say, live our dream life.
Exactly.
I want to get into the details of past life regression sessions, but we're going to take a break first.
Okay.
We are speaking with past life adventure guide, Wendy Rose Williams, and we'll be right back. What do Thomas Jefferson, Elias Howe, and Paul McCartney have in common? They all understood the value of dreams, and as a result, the ideas, inventions, and creations from their dreams affect us to this day. What great ideas are you leaving on your pillow at night? Sign up for a complimentary consultation at my website, thedreamcoach.net, and discover why your dreams are a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we are talking about past lives with Wendy Rose Williams. Well, Wendy, you do past life regression sessions. So can you walk me through what a typical session might be like?
Absolutely. That's a great question. What we do during session is we set the intent. We look at what the person would like to work on, what would really, be a great result for them. And we have that in mind. And the first thing that we do in the session is we go to a healing temple. And it's a guided meditation that I do with the person one-on-one during their session, or it can be done during group workshops too. And we bring in a series of colored healing lights. And I just teach the person how to work with that light, and it'll go to a specific place on their body. And they'll notice the color. They'll notice what they feel or see or hear or experience with that healing light. And then just at a certain point, the lights just naturally wrap up. Typically, they fill the aura and go all around the person at the end. We balance the 4 major elements in their body while we're in the healing temple. And then we work with their chakras, the 7 major energy centers in the body. So that's the healing temple portion, to just get them feeling really relaxed, really good. And then we do a guided meditation where they meet their guide. And sometimes their guide is their own higher self, which is wonderful too. And they just learn how to tune into their own intuition and how to trust it and act on it timely. And again, just take all that monkey mind, all that busy brain out of it. Should I do this? Should I do that? And like the back and forth. When you're not fully in your heart, you're not in your body, you're not listening to your gut, you're just not fully where you need to be, and you're just off in your left brain, exhausting yourself. So we meet with the guide, and then we do the past life regression at that point, where I guide them to go to that time and place with the most healing and information for their life today. They might go back to scenes earlier in this lifetime. They might go back to a more traditional past life or past lives. They may go into a parallel or simultaneous life, or they may go into a future life potentiality, because the future is always changing. And at a certain point, we then wrap up the past life portion. I do either 2.5-hour or 4-hour sessions with people. So it's a lengthy session. And then we cross over to the light at that time, which is a between lives where they're in pure soul form. And they may have a reunion with ancestors that have passed on, with relatives. They may reunite with animals, just favorite pets, even from childhood. There's just various things that can happen. And that is the place, our vibration is the highest when we're there with the light, and we go to the place of all knowledge. And people are able to write up to 20 questions before their session, and we get them answered there. Anything that wasn't already answered organically during the session, just naturally, because again, their higher self and guides are architecting it. And then we just give our thanks, we review, we wrap up. Along the way, we've answered health and nutrition questions, and we just close out the session with them feeling a lot more empowered, that they're able to do a lot of this work and returning to the healing temple on their own and working with their guide on their own in the future.
So when they're in that phase where they're asking questions, is the person asking the question, or are you asking the question to the past?
I'm asking the question on their behalf, and it's not a psychic reading. Their higher self and their guides are speaking through them, which is where that empowerment piece comes in. And they've just relaxed to that lovely dreamlike state, just like before we fall asleep at night, when we first wake up in the morning. So they're in that theta state. and they're in their right brain. Again, just like where we dream from, because those symbols are all coming in and that languaging is coming in. So that's the state that they're in during their session, where they're then answering those questions for themselves. And that's why it's so empowering.
I would think that after coming out of a session like that, the person's going to feel this incredible sense of either relief or joy or de-stress.
A lot do. A lot feel like, oh, phew, oh my goodness. I have the answers. I understand my life purpose. I understand why I had that tough experience with the car collision, the divorce, the job loss, whatever may have felt like the biggest crises and the hardest things in their life. They understand why and can reframe it.
It's got to give you a great sense of relief.
It does. So people often, they sleep better after their sessions permanently. I mean, for the rest of their life, they're able to sleep better and just be, more what they came here to do, more that feeling of peace and of love and of joy and of purpose.
So in a session, is it likely that a person is going to meet with one past life or more in one session?
You're right. I can't answer a typical. Most people are able to access at least one. Other people need a lot of time in the healing temple or need a fair amount of time just talking with their guide or cleaning up things from earlier in this current lifetime, because there may have been abuse, abandonment, whatever may have occurred, and we more focus there. So again, I just don't know. One gal, I just kid her, she set the land record for past lives viewed in a single session, and she visited about a dozen. So it just depends on the person. Some people go quickly. Some people, their guides or their higher self will show them themes, like my example of when I was looking for all the past lives that were impacting my right foot, because I didn't want to keep needing surgeries. I didn't want to keep having mobility issues. So it's like, how do I release this energy?
Right. So how did you release that energy?
I did it by finding multiple of those lives. And also for me, it came down to there was a particular recent life where I had repetitively injured it as an athlete. And it was releasing that, and it was being willing to write about it and to just step to the plate and to own that. And that just released the energy from it. So that's my next book.
Without mentioning people by name, but could you give me a couple of examples of how people have experienced these sessions and what happened as a result?
Sure. What's so lovely is when all boats rise with the tide, meaning when we're able to have a breakthrough in a session and it's regarding our health, that can often help the person with their finances, that can help the person with their relationships. So you just get those, wonderful ripple effects, and them just having more confidence, more self-love, more self-respect. And again, that relates back to the work we do with their chakras too.
Mm. So is there any type of person who could be helped more than others?
Sure. Obviously, it needs to be a person who's open-minded and just willing to have a different experience. And you've also got to let go of expectations. It's not a great way to go into a session and say, oh my gosh, I have to find my life as Cleopatra. It's not going to be helpful. But if people are open to finding something that will help their life now and benefit their life now, and being able to leave in the past that sadness, that anxiety, that pain, and also stuck creativity is another great reason to do a session. People want to start a business. They want to do public speaking. They want to write and publish a book. They want to share their experiences, but they're just too afraid to do so. They just don't want to. They stop themselves. They've got those self-limiting beliefs keep bubbling up. and they stop themselves, they sabotage themselves. So, people being willing to just let the energy move more freely, that's a great reason to do a session.
So it's great if you have self-limiting beliefs. It's a great technique to release.
Yes. And who does not have self-limiting beliefs? I've yet to meet that person.
We all do. Even if we think we've gotten rid of them, they get bigger and come back again.
Right.
It's always something to be aware of.
Yes. Yes.
What happens when you run into people and maybe, you're telling them what you do and they say, oh, come on, there's no such thing as a past life. How do you respond to that?
That's absolutely fine. That would have been me 10 years ago. I would have said, really, you've got to be kidding. And I would not have been very respectful. I just was not open-minded at that time until I had my own awakening and experiences. I think direct experience is the best teacher you can have. You can hear someone talk about it forever and may not relate to it. You can read about it forever, and it just does not hit home as having the experience yourself.
So when people come to you for a past life regression, is it usually because they want to answer one specific problem, or they just come and say, generally, just show me my past lives?
Often there's something that they would like to improve, they wish would be easier, they'd like to enhance. So often there is a challenge or an issue that's driving them. Some people do simply come for enhancing their life. They come for curiosity. They come for enrichment. That's a smaller percentage of people. And then there's also people who come and who've done many sessions, and they're like me. It tends to be past life regressionists or other types of people who are working in these areas. And we use it as our best work time. And it's like, help me structure my next business. Help me figure out my next book. And they do a session and will say, show us all the lifetimes where this individual was a scribe, was a writer, might have done a diary, might have, done a column, and you look for the positives, and then you also look for the blocks. Now let's look for the lives where that didn't go well, because that's going to have led to some self-limiting beliefs in that area. So we can be very specific, and we can also do things that are very, very specific to their business. I've got an MBA degree. I earned that when I was 22 years old. And it's really neat because it's a great way to be practical with all this wonderful woo-woo work and metaphysical energy that I work with. Because again, it's bringing it back to what's going to help them with their life now.
Mm-hmm. How did you get started in this field?
I got started in this field in a very funny way. Ridiculous, actually, via Match.com, which makes no sense. And it's a hysterical story. And what happened was I was divorced. I was ready to meet someone new. I went on Match.com and I met the soulmate that had the contract to wake me up spiritually. I didn't realize this for years. I didn't know what that meant. But he introduced me to Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, and he found the first past life regressionist and recommended the first person that I went to for my own first session back in 2011. And all that just completely changed my life. But when I look back on it, it's just really, really funny. How'd you wake up spiritually? I went on Match.com.
Well, it makes a great story.
We found 19 lives together. So it was just a really big deal because it was someone I had a lot of energy with to release. And much of it was fantastic and much of it was not fun at all, but so worthwhile that we were able to just untangle all those webs we'd woven together and just really get it all straightened out.
Yeah. So when you resolve something through this progression, when you release a self-limiting belief, does that get released and you don't have to deal with it in your next life, or
that can often be true when we really learn a lesson and forgive the other person, forgive ourselves, and just express gratitude, we're then just naturally attracting more of that higher vibrational energy. And that can just up level us like in a video game. And we move up to, that higher level. It doesn't mean we'll never work on something again, but it's not typically going to be so difficult, so painful. The things that really had to grind to get our attention, to get us to make a change.
Well, Wendy, how can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, they can find me via my website, which is my full name, wendyrosewilliams.com. And I'm happy to talk with people one-on-one. I offer complimentary 15-minute phone appointments. And I'd also like to thank your listeners, Debbie. So anyone who mentions your name and Dream Power Radio, the first 3 people that contact me and mention that, I'm happy to give you a copy of one of my 3 books that have been published for free as a complimentary gift for listening to Debbie and I today.
Oh, that is so wonderful, Wendy. Well, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today. We've been speaking with past lives master, Wendy Rose Williams. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.
You will fail. So what? Everybody does. But your gym, your watch, your yoga pants, they pretend you won't. So when you miss a day, eat the pancakes. Give up on a workout? You failed? Seriously, what the hell? We're Body. We've been a part of that too, but not anymore. At Body, we're rejecting perfection and embracing reality. Not in a Pizza Monday kind of way, in a loving your whole life kind of way. In a, this workout is fun and it's okay if I take a week off kind of way. In an, I'm eating healthy and it's okay if I indulge kind of way. In a, I like myself no matter what kind of way. Yeah, you will fail. We all will. But we're not going to let that be the end. You see that? We're already making progress. So let's keep going. We are Body. Start your free trial at body.com. That's BODI.com.